morning. The ghost of Ephraim Inoni from the steps of power to the frozen food exile in France. An image in circulation on social media shows an elderly man stop pushing a shopping cart to a supermarket in the Paris suburb. Nothing extraordinary. Thousands of men do this on a daily basis everywhere around the world. Except this man ran a country of 28 million then and now close to 30 million people 5 years to 10 years ago. This man's name is Ephraim Inoni, former Prime Minister of Cameroon. And the cat he is pushing today is an author in Paris 16th arrondissement. Maybe the most brutal symbol of what Cameroonian power does to those who said it. I'm today joined by Ruth. I am Cyrille le Maire, and today we are going to comment on that photo. We are going to dissect to make it easy for you to understand the ramification of power in Etoudi. Hello, Ruth.
Hello, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have some few questions to ask you about the former Prime Minister, Mr. Inoni Ephraim. Recently, people have been making a lot of comment about him, and we need to clarify these words. So the first question I would like to ask you is, why are people attacking an elderly man who was evacuated to the state for medical purposes?
Okay. What we should say is that generally, it is a culture in our country that we should honor elderly people. But you also understand that we are living in a system of fear where the same regime has used so many strategies to maintain itself at the helm of power, making it difficult for the country to think of alternatives. It is really unfair to attack the sick and once again elderly people. And when they are being authorized to be evacuated to other countries, it doesn't change the fact that we need to own some respect for them. But Ruth, what makes people angry is the fact that even while abroad, these guys are living on money that are supposedly state funds or corruption money, and the people lavaging in poverty, struggling to meet earns means, force them. They are choking. When you listen to commentary around the image, you understand that people are projecting their frustration. Normally, under our culture, we are supposed to observe some respect both for his age and his health condition. But behold, we hold him responsible for the poor roads, the electricity failure, no access to water, poor education system, and above all, unemployment. Because if you check those who comment around this, they are mostly young people. Sometimes civil servants with low paid salary who cannot be able to enjoy the kind of luxury life that some civil servants like them with their small salary through investment have been able to build mansions, establish businesses, and intimidating them. So it's a mix. It's a cross section of Cameroonians that are purely frustrated with the system, and unfortunately, it has reached a majority. So when you go online, you have the impression that it's everybody that is disrespecting his age, disrespecting his health status. But the truth is that the attack is directly on those who are perpetrating corruptive practices, both in offices, parapublic and government offices, and those who are manipulating political power to stay there at the detriment of the will of the people. It's a call for the democratization process, for democratic practices. It's a call for transparency, good governance, and above all, separation of power, as the MRC actually proclaimed.
Mr. Sewe, you know, a lot of people, there are so many things on the social media nowadays. People just post anything. And I have the impression that you are relying on the first social media posts. Doesn't that weaken your case?
Well, absolutely. Isn't me, but the people comment, those who are commenting to laugh at the former prime minister. And I say so on air. A blurry photo from a supermarket is not a court document. So the underlying facts, the conviction, the sentence, the situation, the 7 years imprisonment abroad that people are talking about, those aren't rumors. Those are matters of public record. The photo is just the occasion to ask why the record and the reality doesn't match. This is a man who has half court cases, Eh? Let's go over this coolly, no emotion fact. Ephraim Inoni from the Southwest, Prime Minister of Cameroon from 2004 to 2009 under Biya's regime, is a man who held one of the highest posts in the state apparatus, a man who in 2008 received the Indomitable Lion at the airport on their return from Africa on behalf of the entire government. That was before. In April 2012, Operation Sparrow, the anti-corruption campaign that swallowed an entire generation of regime barons, came knocking. He was arrested. The charges against him included embezzlement of public funds in the case of an advance payment on an insurance premium tied to renewing a Cameroon flight, the infamous defective presidential aircraft fire, the Albatross, damages estimated at roughly 1 billion francs. The special criminal court sentenced him to 20 years in prison. His destination was supposed to be Konenge, Yaoundé Central Prison, the same prison that has seen Minister, Director General, and senior state officials pass through, all decorated yesterday, all humiliated today. Then, surprisingly, in July 2019, exactly some 7 years ago, a fire broke out at the Konenge Central Prison. In the chaos, men stormed his cell. He was beaten, knocked unconscious, evacuated to the Yaoundé Central Hospital where his health deteriorated. His family requested a medical evacuation abroad. On October 25th, 2019, Paul Biya granted him, signed the authorization, and on a flight to Paris. He never came back since then. And you can understand now why the people are so angry. So it's not just rumors. They are reality. People are using the case of the image to question how many other Cameroonians with court cases are free to go and come and can find themselves in supermarkets.
We all know how Inoni was devoted to the president, that's Mr. Pombia. So are you suggesting Pombia personally arrange for Inoni to escape justice?
No, I am not suggesting anything I can't support. Biya signed the evacuation authorization. That is documented. What happened administratively and financially after that is precisely what remains undisclosed. I am not accusing. I am asking why the state hasn't answered the question itself. Why should we have double treatment? So many other former state directorates or ministers are still lavishing in prison. Some are even crying that their eye will get lost very soon. In the case of Brother Amarafa Abidu Yaya, nothing has been said about his case. There are the facts. Now, let's orient ourselves because facts alone never tell the whole story. We need to ask the uncomfortable question. A man sentenced to 20 years for embezzlement public funds, a man who has served neither half nor even a third of the sentence, a man evacuated for medical reasons, fined, but who 7 years later is calmly schooling the exiles of a Carrefour in Paris 16th arrondissement, not Babs, not Chateau Rouge, the 16th arrondissement, one of the most expensive districts in the French capital. So we ask simply, what does an emergency medical evacuation means when it lasts 7 years? And above all, who is paying for it? Because rumors are circulating, and I say with the caution required, these remain unconfirmed at this stage that Inoni's lifestyle in Paris continue to be financed wholly or in part by the Cameroonian states. And if that is true, let us ask the next question. Will a country that struggles to pay part-time teachers, that struggles to equip its hospital, that struggles to pave a road between Kumba and Manfi, will that country be financing the Parisian comforts of a man legally convicted or stealing public money? If this rumor is true, ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer a judicial matter. It is a second conviction of the Cameroonian people. The first 1 billion francs was stolen from them. The second time, there will be footing the bids for the thief, Dos Vita, who is supposed to rather give them accountability about the last judgment.
There are thousands of ordinary prisoners with no voice. Why focus on the former prime minister?
Because Inoni is the exception that exposes the rule. I don't need to interview every animals prisoner in Konenge to make the point that Inoni's case does it for me. When power protects its own and abandons everyone else, one case examined honestly tell you everything about the other thousands. It has not escaped your mind that MRC militants are lavaging in prison for the past 7 years just for asking the transparency of the polls, the double standards. That is where the problem lies. But let us widen this frame because Inoni is not an isolated case. He is a symptom. How many ordinary Cameroonians are rotting today in Konengi, in your bed, in Boya, for minor offenses, a stolen phone, an unpaid debt, an unproven accusation without ever seeing the shadow of a medical evacuation, even to the nearest district hospital. How many Cameroonians' family have never had the means to get out a sick loved one from an overcrowded cell? Inoni had a privilege the average Cameroonian will never have. Illness as an exit door, and year after year, that exit door only open for those who once wore the sash of power. That is the real lesson of Operation Sparrow. It was never an instrument of justice. It has always been an instrument of internal discipline within the regime. You throw it those who fall out of the favor. Let those you no longer need rot, and you quietly arrange for exit for those who still know where the bodies are buried. My dear friend, Inoni knows it's about the albatross, about the public contract of the 2000s, about the inner arbitration of the regime. A man who knows that much never really dies in prison. Sooner or later, he ends up pushing a car at Carrefour at church in Paris.
You know, many people direct it to the MRC talking point. So how do you respond about this?
I respond with the fire. The conviction is real. The sentence is real. The 7 years in Paris is also real. If stating facts and asking who is paying for them counts as a talking point, then the regime has a bigger problem than my commentary. It has a transparency problem. Want me to build this into a short lies telling story? I can't be part of that. Let's look elsewhere on the continent because Cameroon does not hold a monopoly of this theater. Everywhere Françafrique has set up shop, we find the same pattern. The disgraced former dignitary comfortably on exile in a chic district of Paris, Brussels, Geneva, while their people continue to pay literally and figuratively the bill of their past splendor. This is precisely why figures like Thomas Sankara still resonate so powerful on the continent today. Sankara never had a Swiss bank account. Sankara never ended his life in a hyper supermarket in the 16th arrondissement. Sankara died poor for refusing that very system. The Alliance of Sahel States today is building its popularity legitimacy precisely on rejecting this model. The message is simple, blunt, effective. Our elites will no longer flee to Paris with the cash box. That is exactly why this model unsettles certain Western chancellors. Cameroon under Etoudi, meanwhile, remains frozen in the old world. The one where you embezzle, you fail, you suffer a bit in prison, and if you are lucky or well connected, you eventually recover the comfort of a guided exile. That is how we saw it for this edition. Focus on Chief Ephraim Inoni, who have now gained exile in the 16th arrondissement in France, Paris. What do you size of the developing stories around this image? Should we only emotionally focus on an old man negotiating his last bet, or we should question the past and certainly the double standard of justice Cameroonians now face? Thanks, Ruth, for sharing your voice and your question. Until we meet again, it was Cyrille. We believe that the rule of law should govern a country. And so do we aim to one day have the opportunity to govern you. Take care of yourself. Until we meet again. Ciao. Bye-bye.